Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Tuesday, November 15th. Hope everybody's having a great week so far and getting ready for Thanksgiving next week. If you have something that you're thankful for in the disc golf universe or really just in your life in general, shoot us an email, upshot@ultiworld.com. Hit us up in the Discord if you're a subscriber, because we'd love to hear about some of the things that you're thankful for this year as we prepare for our annual Thanksgiving episode. All right, Josh, we got an interesting one today. We're going to be diving into the numbers of 2022, the stats, the weird stuff, the streaks, the records, and a chance to kind of look back on the season from a numerical perspective. But first, we did have another 2023 event here in 2022, the New World Championship down in Florida. Paul McBeth gets a big win in MPO, and you called it. Maria Oliva gets the dub in FPO. She wins by a couple of strokes. And so quick overview thoughts on New World, because we did a subscriber segment, and we will say, if you really want to hear us go a little bit more into detail about this tournament, we're going to ask you to sign up and check that out. We recorded that live on Sunday. But Josh, quick thoughts on New World.
Yeah, the TLDR of the sub bonus is that Maria Oliva gets an important win in her career for building confidence in her ability to compete at a Pro Tour level. Even though that wasn't the strongest field in FPO, she did beat good players. Those includes the likes of like Sarah Hokum and Deanne Carey and Jessica Weiss. So that kind of a win is an important step in Maria Oliva's career in establishing herself as a legitimate competitor who has the opportunity to win at the highest level. Paul McBeth is still Paul McBeth. He blew out Garrett Gerthy by 8 strokes. It wasn't even close. The MPO field was even stronger than the FPO field. There were a handful of well-known players who won on tour this season, and Paul McBeth handled it like he was playing a local C tier. It was dominant. It was an impressive performance, and I think he's really going to benefit from an off season and spending time playing golf in Florida.
I will say the leaders right now in the 2023 season, Sarah Hokum out in front in FPO, 76 points so far on the year. Holly Finley, Macy Villa-Diaz, Maria Oliva round out the top three. Villa-Diaz and Oliva tied with 50 points a pop for their wins at Lake Marshall and New World. Very interesting, isn't it? 2 brand new first-time tour winners to kick things off in FPO.
Yeah.
And I know the fields were thin, but still. Sarah Hokum could have won these tournaments. She was in the top 3 at both. She could have won them both, and it would have been like, okay, Sarah Hokum. But no.
Quick question. Has Luke Sampson won a Silver Series before?
No.
No. So that means all 4 of our winners are first-time Silver Series winners or Silver Event winners.
Well,
Paul McBeth has never won a silver event.
Okay.
Statmando was talking about that. Yeah, I did.
I'm like, Josh, wait a minute. You're forgetting somebody.
No, I'm not.
How about this? The scrappy underdog coming out here on the Silver Series, and he's getting the win, Paul McBeth.
That's right. He played this tournament. He's like, I cannot retire with this whole never won a silver event on my stats page.
Wow, Josh dropping bombs on the Upshot. Paul McBeth, rumors of retirement. Not actually. McBeth is now the world champion and the new world champion. When will he become the old world champion? In my book, week until he gets it. All right, let's move on. Something we did not talk about last week that we want to get to here. Nikko Castro has found a new sponsor. Yes. He will be representing Lone Star Discs out of Texas. Interesting company here. Lone Star popped up during the pandemic. Company that did injection molding and, for industrial purposes. Decided to start making some discs right around 2020. And they made a couple and started to find some success, and they've kind of blown up in Texas. They also do some molding for other small companies like Hooligan Discs. Maybe you've heard of some of their discs, of which will not be named on this program. We're not saying it. We're not saying it. And so now they have brought in Nikko Castro, kind of not their first sponsored player, but they're certainly their first big name. And so, Nikko's still serving his suspension right now. Mm-hmm. Like, his suspension is still active. Now, I know the season's over, but pretty interesting, Josh, to see him land this deal. Now, I want to give you a little bit more details here because I had an opportunity to talk with Lone Star. And they've actually been in contact for a while. I guess at the Open at Belton, Lone Star was there, as a vendor. Okay. And I think the first time doing that, and Nikko came by and said, he loved the plastic and, was pretty interested in the company, but, didn't want to switch discs mid-season. So, I don't know if that suggests perhaps there was some, Nikko wasn't super satisfied with his sponsorship situation in the middle of the year. But keep in mind, Nikko's had a lot of sponsors and had either left or been dropped by all of them over the years. I mean, he's a lot. But I guess they got off on the right foot, and they feel strongly that Nikko is not the person that he is perceived to be online. That he's actually a great guy, ambassador of disc golf, who unfortunately is seen as the player that he can become when he gets frustrated, as opposed to seeing all of the things that he does off of the course, working with kids, being an incredibly passionate player about the sport. And certainly you do see some of those things if you follow Nikko or you hear him talk in interviews. So I talked to Josh Hofstra, who's the marketing director at Lone Star Disc. He says that Nikko's not the only player they're going to be signing this offseason, that they have more notable names on the way, and those are probably not going to come out until the beginning of 2023 after these players' contracts are up. And he said, and I quote, "I don't know if it's the quality of our plastic, our social media presence, or if we're the hot new girl in town, but we've had a ton of pros reaching out to us." So they said, "We took a chance on Nikko because we knew who he was as a person as opposed to just what he does on the course." And they said that their brand is focused on being family-focused and wholesome. An interesting couple of adjectives paired up with Nikko Castro, I have to say. Josh, what do you think about all this?
I'm interested. I would love to do a breakdown and sit down and kind of compare Lone Star Disc to Mint Discs, another Texas-based company that when I went to Texas was also all the rage. And, lots of people told me about it. And then I really became familiar with Mint more than Lone Star after I left and have seen more. So I'd be interested to do kind of a look at those two. But I mean, the thing that I will add, I think it's smart that Lone Star is not just putting all their eggs in the Nikko basket. I don't think that worked out well for Clash. Even if you do have Nikko on your team, depending on who these other players are, if they are as high profile as they kind of make it sound, then it sounds like you can have kind of a diversified branding opportunity and not have to remove all of your old commercials or ads that you used to run on the Disc Golf Pro Tour because they featured Nikko, as Clash Discs did. So I guess the biggest thing though, Charlie, is you hit the nail on the head. Family friendly and what was the other word?
Wholesome.
Wholesome. That's right. Family friendly and wholesome. Nikko is the only guy I know of that has a YouTube compilation dedicated to his outrage on the course. For whether or not that's fair, right? I've talked to Nikko. Nikko, interestingly enough, Nikko is the first pro that I ever met in person. I met him at the Fort well before Worlds when they were passing through to go to California for the West Coast Swing, because he was just stopping by to practice. I know a couple of pros did that, but ran into Nikko and Cap Merch, and Nikko hooked us up with some stuff and like took a picture. I mean, just very friendly to me and my brother-in-law. And so I know that like there is that side of Nikko, but you can't just separate that part from the rest of Nikko. That's not how that works really. And so I'm going to be really curious to know what those conversations were like. Because I mean, of course they're not going to come out and be like, yes, our newest player has a troubled past, but we're willing to look past this. I wonder if those talks were a little bit more frank behind closed doors of Nikko, here are the things that will not happen. Here are the things that, and if they do happen, the consequences, et cetera, et cetera. I also think that a little bit more severe punishment like this. I mean, he had to miss majors because of the suspension. I wonder if that's going to do a bigger deal in kind of keeping him on track a little bit. But I don't know. It doesn't feel congruous with their mission statement and adjectives.
Here's what I'll say. This is a high risk, high reward play. And say what you want about Clash discs. You cannot argue that they were not well served by the notoriety that they got from the Nikko whole thing, from the signing all the way through to the blow up at the end, because they were able to then sever ties and come out looking like the good guys after already generating all of the buzz of having this player throwing their discs. Huge and like deal. Think about how much more people know about Clash discs now because of that. Mm-hmm. They were able to get that push from Nikko. And now if they had, stuck it out and been like, that's our boy, we're not gonna, do anything, then maybe they would have felt some backlash. But again, like, all press is good press, folks. Yes, like for a company like Lone Star, not a household name in the disc golf community, certainly. Maybe you've heard of it, but you may not be able to name very many of their discs. If you listen to this program, maybe you're hardcore and you're like, oh no, I have like 5 of them in my bag. Sure, but like I don't have any Lone Star discs. Josh, do you have any Lone Star discs?
I don't have any Lone Star discs.
Most people aren't going to have them. And so this is now, here they are. They're getting talked about on all the podcasts. Everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, they signed Nikko. Wow, wow, wow. And, whether you feel like that was a terrible move or is a great move, you're talking about it. And that is already working for Lone Star. Okay. You might now go to the disc golf store. You see it on the shelf. You be like, oh, Lone Star. Oh, yeah. I'll check it out. Because, again, it's high risk, high reward. But like, what's the risk really? I mean, I guess some people might be like, I will never give your brand a chance because you signed Nikko. But how many people feel that strongly about it? Like, it's not like Nikko did something that was so egregious that he can never be saved and that he can never apologize. And it's, he's totally irredeemable. I mean, I know some people feel that way, but they're honestly, those people are way over the top.
Yeah.
Like agreed. Nikko didn't kill anybody. Nikko just got mad on the golf course. And yes, he has a bad reputation. And yes, he deserved to be punished. And he got punished. Mm-hmm. He got punished. But this is a USDGC champion. He's clearly, like, if you watch him in any interview, you can see how much he cares about the Frisbee game. And you got to have some respect for that, even if you don't like the guy and you don't like the way that he holds himself on the course. But he's certainly more interesting than 80% of players. And I think that, it's a bit of a risky decision for Lone Star, especially given the brand image they're trying to portray. Like, what are they going to do if Nikko blows up again on the course? And like, that stuff doesn't go away.
No,
it doesn't go away. When Nikko's back in the heart of competition, I promise you. Now, he may not scream at an official ever again. and hopefully he's learned from this whole process. He says that he has. But he's not going to just suddenly become a chill dude on the course. That just isn't how people are. The way that you are in competition, speaking as somebody who tends to have a little bit of an edge when playing sports, you don't erase that. You can suppress it somewhat, but like, he's going to yell when he misses a putt. He's going to get frustrated with his card mates. it may come out on TV and people are going to be like, oh, same old Nikko. But, at the end of the day, he's incredibly talented. And if Lone Star is able to highlight these things about his persona off the course, perhaps they can start to turn his reputation around. Certainly, they're buying at the bottom of the market on Nikko. You're not going to walk in and get a cheaper potential deal than Nikko right now for a player of his caliber. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how much they're paying him. Probably a pretty good amount. Sounds like things have gone gangbusters for Lone Star in the last 18 months. So pretty interesting.
Yeah. Look, I will offer an olive branch. I will take all assumptions as face value with the best intentions, benefit of the doubt. Think this is the best idea in the world on the condition that Nikko changes his name to Nikko World Peace. If that happens, done. Family friendly.
God, that would be incredible.
It's my only requirement, and then you'll never hear me talk bad about Nikko ever again.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the numbers of the 2022 season. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. So stand by. Numbers of the year coming up on the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Did you know the Pound makes more than disc golf backpacks? That's right. They've got beverage carriers. I've got one. They're awesome. They've got travel bags like the Fly Pack. You can even get a toolbox to have a practice bag in the trunk of your car, a fanny pack, packing cubes, and a whole lot more. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com and trick yourself out with Pound bags for every aspect of your bag needs. It's time to tell you about Sunset Lake CBD, a hemp farm located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake produced milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and in 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. Sunset Lake CBD believes that their farm-to-table approach is the best way for you to get responsibly produced, high-quality CBD products that actually work. Sunset Lake CBD crafts topicals, gummies, oils, and more to help with stress, aches, and sleep. I know that both Josh and I are fans of the melatonin-infused CBD gummies. Just get that excellent sleep and keeps you on rhythm for the time zone that you head to. So if you're traveling around, whether you're going, 3 hours west in my case, or you're going, across the world and you need to try to get your sleep cycle regulated, such a great product. So check it out, sunsetlakecbd.com. Use coupon code UPSHOT to get 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Welcome back to the Upshot. It is time to talk about the numbers of the 2022 season. So I figured, Josh, we might as well start with stat leaders across categories over on UDisc. So we've got a lot of categories. Of course, we talk about these things throughout the season, and a chance for us now to kind of look back and say, okay, which players really stood out? And maybe no better place to start than with putting. So I think we're going to do some different stuff. We're going to do some trivia today. We're going to throw out some numbers and try to guess what it is. So how do you want to start, Josh? I know you pulled some of these numbers.
Yeah, I did. So I'm just going to start by giving you some stats, and then I'm going to let you, and then we'll come back. So
okay,
the first stats I want to give you, we've got our leaders in Circle 1 putting on the season. These numbers, I think only one person surprised me in these numbers. Andrew Marweed came in at 92%. Paul McBeth came in at 90%, and Eagle McMahon came in at 90%. I will note, this is the only, in terms of cumulative season stats, putting is the only one that I was willing to include Eagle on. For example, he was pretty high up in Circle 1 regulation, but I just didn't think, he didn't play enough tournaments on enough diverse courses for me to qualify him in Circle 1 in regulation. C1X putting, though, doesn't change too much by course. So I think that's a fair 90%. He had enough holes played to give that some legitimacy. So 92, 90, 90. Andrew Marweed leading the field in the Circle 1X putting. Own was 84% in Circle 1X putting. No shock there. Valerie Mondahondo at 79%. And the second one, or the third place, actually is the one that surprised me. Can you take a guess who that might be, Charlie?
Circle 1 putting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I would probably want to say Paige, but that wouldn't be surprising. I have no clue. How about Missy Gannon?
No, it is Alexis Mondahondo.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Mondahono's sister is holding down the podium spots.
Yeah. Now, it's noteworthy. I mean, Missy Gannon, 76%. She's 1% behind Alexis.
Okay, so she's right in the ballpark.
Kristen Tatar, 75%. Lisa Fakis, 75%. Paige Pierce, 74%. Lots of players who are right. It seems like that's kind of where our bulk sits, is around the 76, 75 mark. That's where your top FPO putters are sitting. And then you have the three who kind of stand above. It's noteworthy. Sarah Gilpin and Heather Young both had 77% as well. But Heather Young obviously not playing very much. And then I think Sarah Gilpin has played more, but I kind of considered those top three in terms of their amount of tour time spent as being the noteworthy stats here.
Well, I mean, what's amazing to me is own separation.
Oh, man.
Like Alexis at 77 in third place is right around a bunch of other players. I mean, there's a ton of players 73% and up. There's like that's if you're shooting 73+%, you're a great putter in the FPO division. Then you've got Valerie kind of separates a little bit at 79%, but then Own at 84%. I mean, it's amazing, honestly. Like
it is.
I think these numbers are going to continue to trend up over time. Mm-hmm. It's clear that like it is possible for FPO players to putt at the level of MPO players. It is certainly possible because, like, from Circle 1, from Circle 2, I think you can make arguments about like you need more strength, get the correct lines without having to jump putt or whatever. But from Circle 1, like everybody can make a Circle 1 putt. So, Own at 84, epic.
I've got some interesting stats that'll go along with this actually.
Okay.
So over the past 3 years, I pulled the top putting percentages for both MPO and FPO in Circle 1X putting.
Okay.
In 2020, it was 88%. 2021, it was 90%. In 2022, it was 92%. So we're seeing a steady increase in terms of the Circle 1X putting. In FPO, it was 83% in 2020, 21% 84% in 2021, and 84% in 2022. Heather Young also was a tie for that title in previous years. So
right.
Own, while taking this year, Heather Young, the reason Own separated herself so much this year is because Heather Young wasn't on tour.
Sure.
Right. In those years, Own was 83, Heather was 81. That's in 2020. In 2021, they were both tied at 84. And then this year, Own stands above at 84 because there's no Heather Young to be there with her. So those are where their stats are. Now, I think when we think of Circle 1 putting, the most comparable sports analogy, in my opinion, is free throw shooting in the NBA. Because it's something that should be makeable every time. And if you gave them 10 or 100 discs and they were just shooting with no pressure, they would probably make 99 or 100 of them. I think that's the case both in the NBA as well as in Circle 1X putting. So I know that it's not a perfect equivalent because there's wind and obstructions, etc. But it really does feel like they, in terms of the level of difficulty relative to the skill, this should be as easy as an NBA free throw. 95% of it.
Especially when you think about like you average it out, like
right.
15 footers are easier than free throws.
Yes.
Like you should probably make like close to 100%. Whereas like you're never going to make 100% of your free throws in the NBA.
Right.
33 footers, right inside the edge of the circle are going to be harder than free throws. But when you average it out to about 25 feet, what's the average putt that people are making from C1X? It's probably around that. You got to figure. Yeah. And that's probably approximately the challenge of a free throw.
I agree with you. So I have two stats for you. Do you want to guess what is the best active player free throw shooting percentage?
Career?
Yes.
I'm going to guess that it's Steph Curry.
It is Steph Curry.
And his percentage is probably 93%.
It is 90%.
Okay, I was a little high.
A little high. I'm sure he's had seasons that are that high or better, but his career is 90%. So that's Steph Curry's career. You average that out. He is a 90% free throw shooter. That
Interestingly comparable to...
right.
Of course, he's the greatest. So, Andrew Marweed, I don't know what his career C1X percentage is, but it's probably around that number.
Right. If you considered career since he became like... especially now that the tour card's better established, I think you could do stats since being a tour card holder as a very easy way to measure beginning of professional
or even
career.
stats since the UDisc era.
Right. Oh, well, the problem is that number isn't going to be different soon because, like, I don't know, who took, 101st at Portland Open this year. They may pop off in 5 years, but they now have stats in the UDisc era.
That's fair. I see what you're saying. Like, wait until
right
somebody
now,
meets the professional bar.
Yes. So I think moving forward, that's for our new professionals. That's going to be Gannon Burr, for example. I think like he would be a great, once he got a tour card, this is his stats.
Sure.
Anyway, WNBA percentage. Elena Del Don holds as active players highest career free throw shooting percentage. Any shots at what that percentage would be?
88%.
93%.
How about that?
She's a better free throw shooter.
Smaller ball.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how much that matters, but it probably matters a little bit.
It probably does. But the point I wanted to highlight here, and I think we've looked at this before, but I want to re-highlight it, is that NBA and WNBA free throw shooting statistics are not significantly different. I think that will be the case for Circle 1X putting for both MPO and FPO as the FPO field continues to develop and grow in its strength.
It sounds right to me. All right, let's get to the Circle 2 putting percentages. If I had to make you guess, would you say that Andrew Marweed and Owen Scoggins also lead Circle 2, or do you think somebody else has the lead?
Own for sure. Probably Andrew Marweed. I don't know if I can. Yeah, probably Andrew Marweed.
Yeah,
I don't know
Circle
else.
2, like you think of Ricky,
Gannon
Chris
Burr.
Dickerson, Gannon Burr, all players who maybe could hold that title. I think Dickerson was a little off this year relative to some
I don't
years
think
past.
he had as good of a putting year.
Yep.
Ricky, I don't remember Ricky ever being the best putter on tour at all this season, so I probably wouldn't say him. Gannon could be the other pick that I would think is the case.
Indeed, it is Andrew and Owen holding it down. Good putting is good putting is good putting from close and far. Andrew Marweed, 38% Circle 2 putting. Gannon Burr, 37%, so very close to the top. And then Corey Ellis in third at 35%. Over in FPO, Owen Scoggins is at 31%. I bet you could guess who's in second.
I'll
give you...
go ahead.
No, you go.
I mean, when I think of another excellent Circle 2 putter, I think of like Katrina Allen?
That's correct.
But
it's Katrina.
It? Okay.
Yeah. She is so interesting because she really breaks the mold of, like, you don't really see people who are great Circle 2 putters like Katrina and then are like sort of average to below average Circle 1 putters. But I mean, we've talked about this for years with Kat, of course. Katrina at 20%, 11 points lower than Owen Scoggins at 31%. Crazy. Valerie Mondahano at 19%. So here are your stats over time Circle 2 putting. In MPO, 2020, 37%, 2021, 36%, and this year, 38%. So I feel like we've kind of seen the ceiling right now on where things are. Maybe something will change. Maybe somebody will come up with like an innovative way to putt from Circle 2. They could push that up north of 40. Certainly don't want to bet against players over time. But interesting to see that that's been pretty flat. FPO, a different story. 20% in 2020, 19% in 2021, And then level up 31% this year from Own.
That is so impressive.
Yeah, what a putting season Own had. Unbelievable.
Yeah, wow.
All right, what's next, Josh?
Next up, we've got Circle 1 in regulation. Now, these stats are tricky. Unlike putting sorted itself pretty nicely. But by Circle 1 in regulation, Circle 2 in regulation, you have people who play a single tournament or two tournaments who are are at the top just because of the level of course difficulty. So, for example, in Circle 1 in regulation, Eagle McMahon really would be your top touring player at 46%. I did not include him because I don't think he played enough this season for this stat.
It's borderline, though. Like, would he still have finished number one had he played the whole year?
Maybe.
I think it's very possible.
It is. But I give credit. I think this award should go to Ricky Wysocki, who was at 44%. So not too far off of Eagle McMahon, who was at 46, but obviously played an entire tour. Over an FPO, do you want to guess who it is, Charlie?
Evelina.
It is indeed Evelina. Evelina comes in at 41% in Circle 1 in regulation. Kristen Tatar at 39% in second, and Natalie Ryan and Henna Blomroos at 38%. It's interesting because for these players in this stat, the stats drop off basically 1 percentage point, occasionally 2 per player, and there are very few ties. So Holland, 35, Haley King, 34, Katrina 33, Jen Allen 33, Macy Valadiaz 31, Kat Merch 31, and it really doesn't level out until, we have a couple people at 30, but there's no really like a leveling out period. It is just a slow decline that is pretty linear actually, which is really interesting to me, unlike putting where you have Own, sort of Valerie, everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting. So how about Circle 2 in regulation? If you go over to UDisc and you sort, you're going to be like, wow, the Europeans are killing it. I don't think we have apples to oranges when we're talking about European courses versus American courses right now. So like all of the top 10 almost is European players. Mm-hmm. Next at the top, Eagle McMahon. He's at 68%. I will just give a shout out to Odo Lettinen, who is at 73% Circle 2 in regulation. Now, look, wasn't playing on the American Tour, but still deserves a shout out for getting that number. So if you scroll down the list and you try to find, okay, who's the next non-Eagle DGPT Touring Pro, this is not a name I would have guessed. 67%, a couple players at 67, including Chris Dickerson, Paul Macbeth, Calvin Heimberg, but by percentage points, number one. Can you guess, Josh? Give it a shot.
I was going to say Calvin, but I guess that's someone you would expect. I'm going to say...
Didn't play a full tour.
Didn't play a full tour. That is an Eagle.
Not Eagle.
And you already named Chris Dickerson. Didn't play a full tour.
For non-injury reasons.
Oh shoot! There goes Gavin Rathbun. What is it? Nikko?
It's Nikko.
Oh my gosh!
It's Nikko. How about that? Yeah, 67%, and hold down the lead in Circle 2 in regulation. So interesting note there. Over in FPO, Circle 2 in regulation. Can you guess? It should be easy.
I probably am going to guess it's Evelina Salonen.
It's Evelina. Kristen is in second. Paige is in third. Henna Blomroos, just couple percentage points behind Paige at 60%. So, yes, Evelina earns the crown, the season-long crown of best player tee to green, and of course we saw that all year long.
Yeah,
and if we go back to the putting, by the way, Evelina Salonen is second to last in all of UDisc in Circle 1X putting. Can you name who is in last place? It is a name you know.
Is it Kona?
It is not Kona.
Okay.
Kona is fifth from the bottom.
Okay.
It is Juliana Korver at 50% C1X putting.
That's too bad.
And I mean, those are two players who are so incredibly talented and just have the hangups mentally on the green, of course. Hope to see improvement from both next year. So interesting stuff. Evelina's not dead last in circle 2 putting. Not great, but 8%. It's not horrendous.
Yeah.
So how about that? Interesting stuff. See, the season stats tell the story of this year for Evelina Salonen.
Yes, they do.
Okay. Quickly, scramble percentage. Your leaders, Ricky, no surprise there, 64% scramble king. He's just been an absolute beast on this in the scramble department. Gannon Burr is your number 2 player on the DGPT. Michael Johansson in third at 62%. Woods king. And then over in FPO, once again, Owen Scoggins leading the way, 49%. I mean, think about Owen's success this year, and think about the major limitation that she has with distance. The reason she's done so well is because she's literally leading the tour in many of the other categories, and that has helped propel her, because it's like when she makes a mistake, she gets out of it and gets saved par. And of course, a lot of that's because of her putting, right? The scramble percentage
that's what I was going to add.
Very connected to the putting, obviously. Yep. Okay, let's go to some more stuff, Josh. Okay. I'm gonna give you a little quiz here, I think.
Okay.
749. What does that number mean? This is impossible. I'm just
749.
749.
Is this no, it's not that.
What? Give me I have some general. What could 749 be?
Something like number of birdies this year. Birdies are better.
It's good idea. It's days. It's days. 749 days, and it is the number of days that Gannon Burr took to earn $100,000 in career earnings following his first cash.
Okay. Wow.
So that is a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
He is the fastest player ever to reach $100,000 in earnings. 749 days. Paul Macbeth, it took him 5 years and 7 months to do the same thing. Now, of course, purses have gone up a ton.
Yes.
But, you also got to give credit to the kind of season that Gannon had to get him to that spot.
Yeah.
Not only winning USDGC, but placing highly at so many tournaments during the year. Wow, that's a record that could stand for at least a little while.
Yeah, I think you're right. I really think that the Macbeth thing really highlights the difference in eras, right? In terms of purses, in terms of the way that the tour rewards and incentivizes players, so that someone like Gannon Burr can earn that much money that quickly. Because Paul is no slacker when it comes to earning cash at disc golf events.
Okay, I got another number for you.
Okay.
1.27. This is so impossible.
Gosh. I don't know. Give me a hint. Give me something else.
It has to do with Northwood Black.
Is this number of strokes that hole 12 played over par?
Yes, it is. Very good. And why is that number notable? Well, it was the hardest hole on tour, averaging more than a stroke over par. The brutal par 5 that really plays as a par 6. If you get a 5, it's incredible. And so that is the hardest hole on tour. Whether you sort by all players competing on the hole or just by the best players, this was the most difficult hole on tour for MPO. For FPO, it was over at the Portland Open, a par 4 playing 1.38 strokes over par. And what hole was that? I had that here, and now I've lost my tab. It was hole number 11, playing stroke and a half over par, basically. Okay, so then how about can you name the easiest holes on the course? On the tour, that is.
On the tour, yeah. My guess for MPO would be Fox Run Meadows, hole 6.
It's a great guess. That was one of the easiest holes on tour, but for MPO, it was Portland Open hole 9, a par 4 that played 0.85 strokes under par. 91% of players got birdie or better on this par 4.
Yikes! That hole needs fixed. It's hard to remember. It's hard to remember holes from the new Portland course, and specifically like numbers and what features they are. But I'm welcome to having courses that have been changed. They've been played twice and changed both years they've been played.
Right. So this was hole 9, Portland Open, MPO, and 515-foot par 4. I mean, when I tell you that, you should be like, yeah, that's too easy.
I don't care if it's a dog leg right. Like, that is still too short.
The hole 6 at the GMC, a 266-foot par 3, pretty much just a straight shot, played 3/4 of a stroke under par. It was the second easiest on tour. So good call there. The easiest hole for FPO was Las Vegas Challenge Infinite Course hole 3, a par 5 that played about 0.8 strokes under par. And so that was, let's see. Oh, well, it depends on how you sort. Okay, so that was the easiest for like higher rated pros. If you include the entire tour, it's Champions Cup hole 18, a 590-foot par 5 that played 0.7 strokes under par.
Oh, so you mean the one that Kristen double bogeyed to give away your first major?
Oh my gosh.
So you're telling me that Kristen gave away a major on the easiest hole on tour this season?
That's true.
That's okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
I mean, remember, she had a birdie putt.
She did.
She had a birdie putt, and it just went wrong. It just went wrong at the worst possible time.
Yeah, it did.
That is insane, though, to think about that. Like, that was like basically the only blemish on the entire season for Kristen Tatar. And it was on the easiest hole on the entire tour. Wow. That is something else. All right. Can you name the players with the longest active cash streaks? We saw
Nate
some
Sexton.
die this year. Kale LaVisca, yes, Nate Sexton. Kale LaVisca's died this year after so many years. Sexton's 113 events in a row cashing.
That's so impressive.
Can you name second place?
Somebody who's been on tour for a while, I'd imagine. It's not Paul. Is it Ricky?
It's a good guess, but no, it's James Conrad.
Oh, good for James. That's really cool.
74 events. How about over in FPO?
I know this one is Paige because I remember Statmando talked about it when Paige got real close to missing cash at one of the events.
That's correct. Paige is in first, 49 events. Owen Scoggins in second at 27.
Oh, okay.
What a year for Owen Scoggins.
What a year. Yeah,
awesome.
No kidding. All right, I've got some trivia for you, Charlie.
Go.
This is courtesy of Statmando. All these second kind of grouping of stats came from Statmando's page, but Statmando also did help us out, reaching out to us in the disc. We reached out to them on their Statmando Discord, and they've been providing us with some stats for this show. So big appreciation to them and the work that they do for providing us some numbers for disc golf. So I'm going to give you 5 names, and I want you to rank them in order of most lead card appearances this season. That does not include feature cards, which is kind of hard to try and separate out. But
yeah, that's fair, though, because
it is.
That's not an earned thing. Okay.
Yes, It is by earning lead card. So in MPO, you have Simon Lizotte, Gannon Burr, Paul Macbeth, Calvin Heimberg, and Ricky Wysocki.
Well, you're not really making this any easier for me. Okay. I will go. There were just some tournaments where Ricky wasn't that good. I'm going to say Macbeth.
Okay. Where do you rank the other 4 now?
Okay, I'll rank them.
Yeah, give me an order.
Macbeth,
Okay.
Burr, Wysocki, Heimberg, Lizotte.
Okay. Not bad. Your error is in Gannon Burr. Macbeth is at the highest with 18 feature cards on the season. It drops off pretty drastically then, where Ricky Wysocki and Calvin Heimberg tie at 12, Gannon Burr at 11. So not far off, right? I mean, those 3 are right there. And then Simon Lizotte in 9, who definitely did not have.
He was feast or famine. I mean, he was up there a bunch, but he was also not up there a bunch.
Yes. Also won from not the lead card this season. So
that's right.
Can't even, that case in MVP Open. So now I'm going to do the same thing for you for FPO. You have Katrina Allen, Missy Gannon, Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar, and Evelina Salonen.
Kristen Tatar, number 1.
Okay.
Probably Paige 2. Who are the other 3?
Evelina, Katrina, and Missy.
I'll say Katrina, Evelina, Missy.
Very close again. You need to flip Katrina and Evelina. So you do Kristen Tatar's first at 28, Paige Pierce at 23. Kristen Tatar having the most feature card appearances of anybody on tour, MPO or FPO.
Yeah, what a monster.
Paige Pierce second with 23, beating out Macbeth's 18. And then you have 15 for Evelina Salonen and a tie for 4th with 13 for Katrina Allen and Missy Gannon. That's impressive to me. I didn't realize that Katrina and Missy both were playing like that well. For both of them to be up there and to be earning that lead card that many times and in this season, because I just don't think either of them were highlighted as having their best seasons, but still strong performances for them. So.
All right, I got some parity stats for you.
Okay.
Again, this is coming from Statmando. Shout out to Steve. Just the best. FPO, we've talked about it. It's just been, obviously Kristen had an amazing season, but there's been more winners. There's been, more players up at the top. It feels like obviously more players on tour, and the numbers back it up. We had 7 unique winners this year at the Elite Series and Majors. That's the most all time. 5 different players won multiple events. That's the most all time. 18 different podium finishers on the season. That's the most all time. You see the trend here?
Yeah, I do.
Biggest ever average field size with 50 players, 184 unique competitors. The average stroke separating first place from 10th place was 15 strokes, 15.2. But that's down 50% from 2016. So we're seeing everything is crunching up, right? There are more strong players at the top. The middle of the pack is getting stronger. And, no matter how you slice the numbers, it is more impressive than ever. The lowest average margin of victory since 2012 this year at 4.1 strokes. Over an MPO, it's not quite as strong a story, but it's still similar. We had 29 different players on the podium this year. That's the most ever. 4 different multi-event winners. That's the second most all time. There were 5 in 2008. Lowest average margin of victory all time at 1.7 strokes.
That's incredible. That is an incredible number for disc golf.
Even if that stays around that number, around 2, that you are going to have constantly interesting tournaments.
Yes.
You're going to have playoffs. You're going to have battles down the stretch. And it certainly felt like we had that all the time this year. There were not that many blowouts where you didn't want to watch the final round. It was constantly interesting.
Imagine if I told you that like the average score separation between the winner or loser of an NBA game was 4 points.
Right.
You would watch every NBA game all the way through every time. That would be my number one professional sport to watch.
I mean, I think that the argument for not making disc golf harder is that it's so compelling when we have things as they are now.
Yep.
If you make things harder, the better players are going to separate more.
Well, that was the case with the Fort in Utah. The pros said it was one of the easier worlds. Oh, the both courses at Worlds at Utah,
sure,
they said were easier, but they also delivered in some in a lot of drama. I'll leave it there. But I mean, I think that kind of speaks to that a little bit, is that easier courses do create that kind of congestion that make for interesting golf as well. So the trick is maybe not harder per se, but you still need the courses to be interesting.
Yeah. There were 5 playoffs this year, and 6 if you include the Tour Championship. That is the most ever. Goes along with that lowest average margin of victory. Here's a good one. Second highest ever average runner-up event rating. Okay, so the player in second averaged the second highest total ever, behind 2020, a weird year because of limited fields and COVID.
Do you have that stat? I want to
try to guess.
Know
it.
what the number is?
I do know the
that's
number.
what I wanted to do. This is for MPO?
This is for MPO. It's a good number in FPO too. We'll talk about it.
I'm going to say 1049.
Honestly, not even that close. 1056.2.
Really?
Yes.
I was guessing, if you had asked me what the average winning score is, my answer would have been 1058. So I guess I was way low on that number as well then.
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig that up. That particular stat. It's possible that will be something I can find. But let's see. All-time best round ratings. I'll keep looking. But in FPO, you want to guess the number in FPO?
981.
That is a very good guess. 982.8.
Oh man! All right, I feel redeemed.
What's interesting about that number is that there's not even really players rated that high.
No, there aren't.
And in MPO 1056, I mean, I don't know what the highest rating is right now.
I don't think it's that high.
I think it's Ricky, right? I think it's not quite that high. It's not quite 1056, but it's close to that. I'm checking now.
Okay.
No, it's 1049 right now. It's Macbeth at 1049. But we've had some players over 1050.
We've had players over 1060.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And so interesting, players kind of ratings declined a little bit this year. Perhaps that's a feature of the field getting better. Maybe. All right, Josh. So can you name the highest average event ratings this year? Who played the best according to rating at a tournament this year? I think that they're guessable. I think they're both guessable.
I'm going to say Eagle McMahon European Open.
And that is correct.
Okay.
An absolutely unbelievable 1074. That is the highest major event rating of all time. Of course, beating out Macbeth, who played like an absolute beast.
Yes, also had an incredible rating. My FPO guess is going to be Kristen Tatar at Jonesboro.
Let's see. She definitely won by the most.
That's kind of what I'm going off of.
8-stroke win. I know that Kristen had a 1001 rating at Worlds, which is a record for Worlds.
I forgot about that.
Her Jonesboro rating this year, event rating. Let me pull this up. I have it right here. Yes, Josh, you are correct. 1009 rating for Kristen Tatar at the Jonesboro Open. That beat out her. What ultimately ended up being 1007. Pardon me, because they revised the ratings. 1007 event rating at Worlds. Kristen Tatar actually holds the 5 top event ratings on the season, all over 1,000 rating. She also did it at GMC, Des Moines Challenge, and the Pro Tour Championship.
That is unreal. I cannot believe Pro Tour Championship. You got to caveat a little bit. She only played 2 rounds, but that's so impressive. Holy smokes.
So you already named Eagle. Some other impressive ones from this year. 1072. 1074 was the highest of the year, not just the highest ever at a major.
Is that Paul Macbeth's European Open?
No.
Oh.
I think this maybe is only for winners. So I think Macbeth was right around there, but Ricky won with a 1072 average rating at Texas State's.
Okay.
And then I know I talked about this a bunch when we were talking about USDGC, but Gannon Burr shot a 1067 average rating to win USDGC, and that was the third highest winning event rating of the year. Incredibly impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah.
And by the way, Macbeth did shoot a 1072 at European Open.
I knew that number was right. I knew it sounded right. So impressive season from a lot of people.
Very much so. All right. Anything else, Josh?
I think that's all that I've got. We did a lot of the talk about things like major finish and average finish and top tens. We did player of the year discussion. But for me, those are the big, those are the important stats. I think one stat I would like to include, Kristen Tatar, not once, but twice this year, shot a 1033 rated round at Worlds and at the Des Moines Challenge. Incredible numbers in terms of just the strength of an individual round coming out of Kristen Tatar this season. So
I got two more quick ones for you.
Okay.
First one is 1.73. That's Kristen Tatar's average finish in 2022.
Oh, that's incredible. That's so good.
And then Statmando was out at the MVP Open with Speed Gun. You know, we see the Speed Gun stuff sometimes. And they tracked MPO lead cards. They tracked all the $1 million shot competition shots and said, okay, who threw the fastest? Who had the highest release velocity? And for rounds 1, 2, and 3 at the MVP Open, as well as all 3 shots during the $1 million shot competition, the answer was the same person.
Oh my God.
Can you name the person?
I have
There's only a couple options.
There are only a couple options. There are 2 people who I think have a chance at it. That would be Garrett Gerthy or Ezra Aderhold. But I distinctly remember watching the challenge at Goat Hill. Simon used to have this number. I know he used to be the fastest release velocity, but then he got injured and has not since. But I remember watching the challenge at Goat Hill from like 3 years ago because Central Coast always put the radar gun, like they were the first people to do it. And I remember watching Anthony Barella hit like 79 miles per hour at the challenge of Goat Hill. So my guess is going to be Anthony Barella. And
that is correct. It is Anthony Barella who threw 73 or 74 miles per hour during rounds and 77 miles per hour during the $1 million shot competition.
Unreal.
Just what a talent. What a talent. You know, I wonder if you, like a really hard throwing pitcher, if you gave them a disc, how hard could you throw it? How much does a baseball weigh? I feel like it weighs less than a disc, right?
It
weighs 5 ounces, which is 141 grams.
So, yes.
So, you know, almost no professional player is throwing a 140 gram disc. I think they make some, but you got to figure, like, the hardest throwers are throwing 101, 102 miles an hour. And if you give them a heavier object, obviously they're going to throw it less hard. It's also, I feel like, not as sort of advantageous a throwing
motion.
Motion?
Yeah.
Like a backhand throw. So I kind of wonder, like, where does that rank? You know, AB can probably throw a 90 mile per hour fastball, I would imagine.
Probably, yeah.
So I was like, what's the high end possibilities? I mean, I think you could probably see somebody hit 80. Maybe it's happened.
Yeah, maybe.
Simon had that video where he was with the speed gun, where he was throwing like totally ridiculous speeds. Pretty incredible stuff.
Awesome, guys.
There's some numbers from the year. Hope everybody enjoyed this. I got one more thing for you. Can you name the total number of aces across divisions this year at tour events?
25.
55.
Okay, I said 25, and I'm like, that's way too low. Yeah.
And here are the players who had 2.
Okay.
One in FBO, Chloe Alice.
Okay.
And then Ezra Aderhold, Linus Carlson, Chapalonis, I don't even know who that is. Chandler Fry, Jeremy Colling actually had 2 aces this year, if you can believe it. James
Were they
Proctor
on camera?
and
That's
Austin
the
Turner.
question.
Well, I just saw like Germ was complaining on social media because the Pro Tour was like not featuring his aces when he finally got them. Totally fair.
Oh man, we're just gonna pretend Germ never aces, and the only people on his card hit aces.
If only that was like a true thing that kept happening forever.
Oh my gosh, it'd be incredible.
Good stuff. All right.
Hey, I would pay Germ to caddy for me at Worlds if I was a pro player. If that was legit. I mean, I don't know if it counts if he's a caddy, but it's worth a shot, right?
Don't miss our subscriber bonus from Sunday, our rapid reacts to the New World Championship. We're also going to dig into some more numbers, both from the voting for the All-Star Awards and various player awards this year for the Pro Tour, as well as some bonus stats from the 2022 season in a subscriber bonus coming out this week. So we'll see you there. You can subscribe for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Join the Discord, come in, hang out. Looking forward to the off season. We've done a lot of planning. We've got a lot of great shows for you coming up over the next couple of months as we get ready to head into the 2023 season. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you Thursday right here on The Upshot.